Well, President Trump has given us an update on his plan for the Middle East and specifically what he wants to do with the Gaza Strip. Now, as we all know, a couple days ago, President Trump announced in a joint, not statement, what would you call it, a joint press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, basically stating that he would like to take over the Gaza Strip. And, he left a lot of questions unanswered when it came to that. And, as some of his aides and other Trump administration officials did try and walk back the claims, not to the extent that it's not true, but just we're just not there yet. And they tried to walk back some of these claims. But now we do have a little bit more information on what he wants to do. But hey, before we get into this, if you're new to the channel, drop down below, hit that notification or subscribe button so you never miss another video from us. So President Trump released a statement. This was yesterday morning. The Gaza Strip would be turned over, and this is how he feels the logistical processes would be played out for the U.S. to take over the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled in a far safer and more beautiful community with new and modern homes in the region. They would actually have the chance to be happy, safe, and free. The U.S., working with great development teams from all over the world, would slowly and carefully begin the construction of what would become one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on Earth. No soldiers by the U.S. would be needed. Stability for the region would win. Now, let's kind of go through and break this down here. The Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of the fighting. Now, right now, between Israel and Hamas, they are in a negotiation process to come to a peace deal. And one thing we need to just recognize right off the bat is a two-state solution just is not in the cards anymore. Poland, from Israel and from Palestine, or the Palestinian people, they do not want a two-state solution. And the biggest issue with the two-state solution is one of the states in that two-state solution are a bunch of frickin' terrorists. It's kind of hard to have peace with your neighbor when one of them, you get an administration in the United States who, maybe has Israel's back, but they're not unwavering in their commitment. They're gonna put Israel on a leash and kind of hold them back a little bit, which is why, October 7th happened. It's kind of ridiculous. You cannot have a two-state solution when you're run by a bunch of terrorists. When one of the states are a bunch of terrorists. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in Gaza who do not want this. They didn't want October 7th. They don't want to be fighting. They want peace. And those people, God help them. Pray for them. Pray that they're able to get out of Gaza, that they're able to resettle somewhere else. But the issue is the bulk majority of the Palestinian people not only support Hamas, they will aid and abet Hamas in their process. Hamas, they build tunnels under hospitals and schools where they hold hostages, where they keep their ammunition, where they retreat into when there's bombing. They go under hospitals. They go under schools. They're the sick people who have allowed innocent civilians to die in this process. Now, of course, Trump has to throw a jab at Chuck Schumer. I'm guessing this have something to do with the fact Chuck Schumer's Jewish. He would, like Chuck Schumer. I don't really know. It's like obviously he's trying to hit at Chuck Schumer in some way or another. But the issue is that if the United States were to become an owner of Gaza, it's like first what would have to happen is you'd have to have peace negotiations, between Israel and Hamas. And, I think Hamas is just going to do whatever they're told at this point because otherwise Trump is just going to let Israel unleash on them. Fine, you don't want a peace deal? The Gaza Strip has already been flattened over the last, 18 months. We'll just double down, flatten the rest of it, and call it good. And I think that it's inhumane to ask people from Palestine to stay in Palestine, in Gaza. I shouldn't call it Palestine. It's Israel. But in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip. there are no utilities set up. They don't have electricity. They don't have running water. The infrastructure that there has been completely destroyed. And if it's not destroyed, how structurally sound is the infrastructure that's in Gaza? Probably not that well. What type of mass casualty are we going to see in the aftermath of the Hamas-Israel war? Because the Palestinian people went back into Gaza, and then there were mass fatalities due to poor infrastructure and infrastructure that was not structurally sound. Now, the issue is the resettling. Now, Trump has thrown out the idea of Jordan or Egypt being a place that these people could be resettled, that we could find a plot of land for them and be resettled. And, people like the New York Times, bunch of sleazebags. Peter Baker, what a sleazebag. He talks in here about how basically the Palestinian people are just going to be, they're not going to be resettled onto a plot of land. They're just going to kind of be dispersed, which is totally untrue. If they get resettled, they're going to have their own plot of land, that this is where they're at. But the issue is that these are people who support terrorists. Egypt and Jordan both know that whatever happens with these people, wherever they go, the bulk majority of them go, it is going to be a hotspot or a hub for terrorism. So why would Jordan want to take these people on? Why would Egypt want to take them on when they know statistically that these people support terrorists? And they most likely haven't been changed over the last 18 months. They've most likely been emboldened over the last 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 14 months, 18 months. Whatever timeline it took them, they most likely have been emboldened. Now, yes, could they be moved into beautiful communities with new modern homes in the region? Sure. But if they're terrorists, that's not great. All this money's going to be spent. Who's going to spend it? A. Who's going to finance it? B. It's like there's a lot of questions that you have here. But yeah, they could have a chance to live free. But if they choose to continue to elect terrorists, they're going to be absolutely obliterated by by Israel or the other Arab states in the area. Now, the U.S., we can work with great development teams from all over the world, but ultimately someone's got to pay for it. Who's going to pay for this? And it's going to take a very long time, not only to rebuild the Gaza Strip, but wherever these people get resettled to. Or what, are we just going to, are there just going to be homes there that we're just going to give them? Like, things cost money. And also, you guys were the losers in this war. You guys started this war. You're terrorists. And now you're going to get a deal of a lifetime. I don't know how I feel about that. I think there's a lot of gray area where your mind can wander on what's going to happen. But the one thing that Trump has definitely been grounded on is the fact that no U.S. soldiers need to be on the ground. Americans do not want soldiers on the ground in the Middle East. We do not. We had 2 decades of troops on the ground in the Middle East before. We don't want to go back. Even if there is some sort of ownership portion of it, which the ownership portion is really the only two-state solution that we have right now. It's just not with Israel or with Palestine. And it's been the Washington establishment that a two-state Israel-Palestine solution is the way forward. But what would you call it? That statesman way of thinking has not worked for the last, 8 decades? We need someone like President Trump who's going to think outside the box. Whether this is a great idea or an okay idea or a bad, we need someone who's going to think outside the box. We cannot establish a Palestinian state alongside the Israel state. They are not going to be able to peacefully coexist. I just have a very, very hard time seeing it happen. Now, Trump wants to, turn this into a Rivera of the Middle East, which, do we really want to get involved in the Middle East? Really? I'd rather us go after, Greenland. I'd rather us go after Canada or the Panama Canal. Could it help Israel out? Would it help Israel out? Absolutely. This is just Israel, they're just overjoyed by this idea. Because basically, if Israel is attacked, America's attacked. And if America's attacked, you're going to get the full force of the U.S. military thrown at you. Now, granted, if you attack Israel, you're going to get a lot of that too, but it's just this. We just need more information. Your mind can wander a lot when there's a lot of gaps in the information. Now, Trump has promised to reveal his position within 4 weeks, which hopefully we're going to see. I just really want to see it. But the biggest detriment, there's two of them, to a two-state solution is A, the Palestinian people elected a group of terrorists and then they aid and abet terrorists. B, those terrorists caused a terrorist attack in Israel on October 7th that killed 1,200 people and, started this war that killed over 47,000 people. And, even the New York Times are admitting at this point that Israel nor Palestine populations see the two-state scenario as a viable path forward. Which I think that's always been true there. I shouldn't say always. It's been very true in the recent past. But it's the rest of the world because they don't know what else to do. They don't know how. Obviously we can't just pull out and let anarchy happen because we have a very close ally, Israel, over there. But this is just going to be a really, really tough spot. No troops on the ground. The United States is not going to pay for this rebuilding. But also, we have to come to Israel has to come to a negotiated end of the war. Yes, they've got a ceasefire right now, but they need to have a negotiated end of the war. And if Hamas turns their back on that deal, we have to absolutely destroy every single Hamas supporter. Throw them in jail. Don't mean we have to kill them. Throw them in jail. I don't know. This is ultimately going to be a story that's going to develop over the next weeks, months, and most likely years. And we're going to keep you up to date as this unfolds. What's the U.S.'s posture in this? What is Israel going to do here? What's going to happen with Hamas and the Palestinian people? But we're going to be here to bring you coverage on whatever happens. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments on Trump's idea for a two-state solution with the United States and Israel and relocating the Palestinian people and no U.S. troops on the ground. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That's all for today. Have a good one.